Okay, I've got some facts here to build on the opening. We have an estimated 10,000 CHICOM soldiers crossing the California-Mexico border every month. We've seen the photos, we've seen the videos. Oh, CNN, conspiracy theory. What are these, photoshopped? I don't think so. And then, of course, Paul Preston's sources will tell you, well, it's really interesting because they are entering Camp Pendleton in big numbers in white vans. And then Jamie Walden came on my show this week and said, Dave, I've got sources inside Camp Pendleton because Jamie's a former Marine saying they're pissed off because they're training these guys. And then you got Senator Dick Durbin saying we should put illegal immigrants into the military and give them full citizenship. Gee, what could go wrong? So you tell me. Okay, that's only the first part. The second part is a story that I know about firsthand, and Jamie said he had a very similar story. Other sources, same thing. People in Venezuela being hired by NGOs with laundered money from Biden, and they're being brought here as UN peacekeepers in disguise, disguised as illegal immigrants. And then this is a plot that's been in effect for some time because some time ago, John Moore, popular talk show host at RBN, former Green Beret, former homicide investigator, very reliable. I'm on John's show once a week when I'm not traveling. And John's daughter went to buy a puppy in Seattle. And she said, oh, by the way, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a UN peacekeeper living in a really nice house, courtesy of your laundered money. And then we have the WHO, World Health Organization, WHO, pandemic treaty illegally entered into by the United States. It's a treaty. And unless it passes the Senate by a 2/3 vote, it's invalid. But it gives away national sovereignty. And I've been through it many times. They can mandate vaccines. They can mandate that you can't take certain medicines. They can mandate forcible incarceration for medical conditions without any specific variables. And this is like Rule 2.1 out of New York, we've talked about extensively. Uh, this is bad, people. This is martial law. This is medical martial law. And the Biden administration is fully embracing this. And now, just coincidentally, with Biden's approval rating, with the real sources that tell me, military related sources, that his approval rating is between 9 and 12%, just in time for the rollout pre election of 5 million bird flu vaccines. Here we go again. And then, of course, like I said, the UN troops coming across disguised as illegal immigrants, and then on government property for years in Hagerstown, Maryland. We've got the photos and the videos, manufactured UN MRAP vehicles, more medical martial law. And then I can go back in time to something I and Celeste Solom, former FEMA administrator, have documented for years. ESF 8 through 14, Human Health Services, and the UN. Mm-hmm. And it's medical martial law incarceration. And they go into great detail how they're going to transport, what they're going to do with them, what kind of facilities will they be staying in. 17 federal agencies such as the FBI, DHS, but not one medical organization. And you're saying, holy crap, Batman, wait a minute. They're moving people for medical reasons to a facility and they don't have any doctors? And that's what the administration organization flowchart looks like. And then in these camps covered by Army Field Manual FM 39.4, they talk about how they want foreigners eventually take over control of these camps on American soil. And then they've planned for the eventuality of where this is going. There was a video out there. I produced it because I had to clean it up. It was a mess, but we put it out. And what was interesting about this video is it showed soldiers with triangles, black triangles embroidered in gold, doing war games at Camp Grayling in Michigan, a known FEMA camp. They were doing war games. And what was interesting about this is the Americans lost. And we could see from the video they were surrendering. And then in Jade Helm 15 and 16, particularly 16, near Bastrop, Texas, they did drills to fight against, and they hired actors, crisis actors, at $18 an hour. DHS hired them, the Obama administration, to play the role of disaffected America guerrilla chieftain who were ex-military. Civil War. These are the variables we know to be true. These are facts that are in evidence and without dispute. So when you put all these facts up on the wall, like a homicide investigator, and you want to connect the dots and look for the patterns, it's very clear that we're going to be under UN martial law, and the pseudo mechanism, the legitimacy, is going to be through the WHO pandemic treaty, and the WHO is going to be doing it. We're going to have UN peacekeepers from Venezuela. By the way, to finish that story, taxi cab driver, and I told a week, shuffling around a guy for a few days doing administrative work of an undisclosed nature, eventually revealed to the taxi cab driver, and Jamie Walden has a similar story, that I'm with the UN, and eventually we're going to come out and we're going to be the peacekeeping force in America. It's Venezuelan. Then you have the Chinese factor. The Chinese factor should scare the hell out of you, because there was a 5-part series I did, and I'm rerunning it now, and I'm doing a part about every 3 days, and I'm up to part 3. And it was based on the Wei Fang speech, the defense minister's speech, to the Central Planning Committee of the CCP. And he basically said, we're going to take over America. We need the resources or we can't survive. And if you want them to be the world policeman, that's why the UN is funneling them in, to be the major contingent in the UN peacekeeping force. 10,000 a month crossing our border. 10,000 a month. As Doug said and Jamie said, they're just going to show up wherever and do their military operations, and they'll seemingly come out of nowhere. The Wei Fang doctrine said they're going to commit genocide against America. They're going to use bioweapons. That's what he said in 2017. Speech that was released to people like myself, John Moore, the late Paul Martin. And we all and others talked about it in detail. I think this is their battle plan. Medical martial law, followed by killing as many Americans as possible. Chinese takeover. Do you see it another way, given the facts and evidence? Am I jumping to conclusions that just can't be real? I have a hard time believing this too, but let's keep in mind, the Chinese have made the Bidens filthy rich. And we don't need to go very far in this, because we've seen congressional testimony. Now, they can deny it all they want. The Democratic Party and the Bidens and the DOJ stand down and won't go after him, won't even release key files under threat of contempt of Congress, which is already sent Trump supporters to prison. But they don't have to comply. But the Bidens are rich because of China. We know that the original COVID was developed in a biolab in Ukraine, sent by Air Force Two to the Wuhan lab. And we know that Devin Archer and Hunter Biden and others accompanied it. And according to Paul Preston, all 6 of the crew members have died mysterious deaths since then. Dead men tell no tales. I could go on and on and on, but this bird flu is going to be the catalyst, I believe, to stop the election, or to make the election no voting in person. And then we'll get into what 2000 Mules video, our movie production Dinesh D'Souza approved, ballot stuffing to extraordinary means. And it's all on tape. It's not controversial, unproven allegations of voter fraud. Okay, well, do I believe the Democrats and the judges who are corrupt and bought off, or do I believe my lying eyes? I think there's a real good chance we won't have an election, but I think we have to proceed as if there is going to be an election. And if there is an election, they're going to go for massive cheating because we'll be in lockdown again. And this time it'll be the UN enforcing it. It won't be local law enforcement called to the gym because someone won't wear a mask. This is scary stuff. We're in a very pivotal time